The chamber stretched upward like a cathedral built by gods. Ambassador Daniel Reed stood alone on a floating platform, suspended above darkness so deep it seemed to swallow light itself. Above him, ascending in endless tiers, sat the representatives of the Galactic Council. Thousands of species, hundreds of thousands of delegates, all of them watching him with eyes that ranged from curious to hostile. The Morvathi delegate hissed from her perch, her scales reflecting the chamber's cold blue light. The Threxian observers clicked their mandibles in rhythmic disapproval. The massive Gordon representatives made the entire hall vibrate with their breathing. Daniel had been standing here for 7 hours while they read charges against humanity. 7 hours of accusations delivered in voices that echoed across species and languages. He was only beginning to understand. High Chancellor Theron raised one of his forearms. The reptilian leader's voice filled the chamber through translation systems that converted his words into every language simultaneously. Human Daniel Reed, your species stands accused of deception. We granted Earth membership in this council 20 standard cycles ago. We offered friendship. We shared knowledge. And you have betrayed that trust. Daniel kept his face neutral. He had trained for this moment. Every human diplomat had. They knew this day would come eventually. The galaxy had welcomed humanity with cautious optimism 2 decades ago. A new species, young and eager. Primitive by galactic standards, but showing promise. The Council had helped Earth develop faster than light travel. They had shared medical technology that cured diseases humanity had fought for centuries. They had opened the stars to a species that had barely left its own solar system. But then they had started noticing things. Small things at first. Human reaction speeds that did not match biological assessments. Problem-solving capabilities that exceeded their technological level. An unsettling talent for understanding alien psychology despite having no prior contact with non-human intelligence. The Council's scientists had dismissed these observations initially. Statistical anomalies. Cultural differences. Nothing to worry about. Then the incidents began. Human traders somehow knowing about market shifts before official announcements. Human scientists solving century-old problems in weeks. Human ships avoiding pirate ambushes in sectors where no warnings had been issued. Each incident was small, explainable, but together they formed a pattern that terrified the Council's intelligence services. The holographic display above Daniel's platform activated. Images appeared showing human vessels moving through space with precision that suggested advanced knowledge of patrol routes. Human diplomats who seemed to know classified information about Council deliberations. Human researchers accessing data they should not have been able to find. The evidence went on and on. You've infiltrated our systems, High Chancellor Theron continued. His voice carried weight earned from 3,000 years of leading the Council. You have spied on us. You have violated every treaty of trust between our peoples. We have been patient. We have given you opportunities to explain, but your evasions and half-truths have exhausted our goodwill. Daniel felt his jaw tighten. 20 years of careful diplomacy, 20 years of humanity playing the role of grateful newcomers, 20 years of holding back while Earth learned the rules of galactic civilization. And now it was all falling apart because the Council had finally figured out what humanity had been doing all along. The Council has reached its judgment, Theron announced. The chamber fell silent. Even the constant background hum of translation systems seemed too quiet. Humanity will be quarantined. All human vessels must return to your home system within 96 hours. Any humans found outside Earth's solar system after that deadline will be detained. Your species will remain confined until such time as you can prove you are no longer a threat to galactic security. The words hit like a physical blow. Quarantine, not expulsion. Not war, but isolation. Humanity locked in a cage while the rest of the galaxy moved forward without them. Daniel thought about the millions of humans living on colony worlds, the thousands working in Council facilities, the children attending alien schools, learning to be citizens of a galactic civilization they would now be exiled from. He thought about the message that had arrived 6 hours ago. The encrypted communication from Admiral Patricia Cole, commander of Earth's defense fleet, The message had been brief. Daniel, we are ready. Just give the word, and we show them everything. For 20 years, humanity had prepared for this moment. They had known the Council would eventually discover the truth, had known that fear would override friendship once the galaxy understood what Earth really was. So they had made contingency plans, backup strategies, options that Daniel desperately hoped he would not need to use. Additionally, Theron continued, your species will surrender all advanced technology acquired through Council membership. This includes faster-than-light drives, quantum computing cores, and any weapon systems rated above Class 4. Compliance is not optional. Daniel looked up at the thousands of faces watching him. Some showed triumph. Others showed fear. A few showed what might have been sadness. He wondered if any of them understood what they were really doing, if they grasped the scope of the mistake they were making. No, Daniel said quietly. The single word cut through the pronouncement like a knife. The chamber went absolutely silent. Theron's crest flared in surprise. What did you say? I said, no, High Chancellor. Daniel's voice remained calm, but something in its tone made the nearest delegates lean away from him. Humanity will not accept quarantine. We will not surrender our technology, and we will not allow this council to dictate our future based on fear. The chamber erupted. Shouts in 100 languages filled the air. Security systems throughout the hall armed themselves with audible clicks and hums. Theron rose to his full imposing height. You forget yourself, human. You are one species among 10,000. You have no authority here. No power to resist our judgment. Oh. Daniel reached slowly into his jacket. Every weapon in the chamber tracked the movement. He pulled out a small communication device and held it up where everyone could see. For 20 years, humanity has operated in what we call diplomatic mode. We followed your rules. We respected your boundaries. We acted like the junior species you believed us to be. He tapped the device. A signal shot outward, encrypted with codes that would take the Council's best computers lifetimes to break. Throughout the chamber, every security system suddenly went dark. Not damaged. Not destroyed. Just inactive, as if someone had politely asked them to sleep for a while. The Morvathi delegates jumped to their feet, reaching for weapons that would not activate. The Threxians tried to access their communication implants and found them silent. Even Theron's ceremonial throne, powered by technology older than human civilization, displayed a simple message in Earth's most common language: we have been here all along, watching everything. See you soon, humanity. The message faded. Systems came back online, but the damage was complete. In 5 seconds, humanity had demonstrated something the Council had never imagined possible. They had access to everything. Complete, total access to every system in the galaxy's most secure facility. Daniel smiled. For the first time since arriving at the Council headquarters, he let them see what a human expression really meant when all pretense was stripped away. Now then, High Chancellor, would you like to discuss the actual terms of humanity's place in this council? Because I think you will be very interested in what we have to say. And I think you will be extremely interested in what happens if you refuse to listen. Theron stared down at the human, and for the first time in 3 millennia of service, the High Chancellor felt genuine fear. The emergency session began within the hour. The Grand Council chamber had transformed from a courtroom into something resembling a military command center. Daniel remained on the suspended platform, but now he could see weapons trained on him from at least 15 different positions. The Council was taking no chances. High Chancellor Theron had abandoned all pretense of calm judicial authority. Explain what you did, human. Explain it now. Daniel checked his communication device with deliberate casualness. Every species in the chamber recognized the gesture as a power move. What happened is simple, High Chancellor. Humanity demonstrated that we have been operating under significant restraint. You see, when your scouts found Earth 20 years ago, we were not as primitive as you believed. You hacked the most secure systems in known space, growled Commander Vex of the Morvathi military forces. Her scales had turned a deep red that indicated aggressive intent. Systems designed by the greatest technological minds in the galaxy. No, Daniel corrected. We did not hack anything. We helped build them. The silence that followed was profound. Species throughout the chamber looked at each other in confusion and growing horror. A small crystalline delegate from the Loomis Collective spoke up, their voice like wind chimes. That is impossible. Our security infrastructure was designed by the Xanathi, the most advanced civilization in council space. Daniel nodded slowly. The Xanathi. Yes, brilliant people. We studied their work extensively during the 15 years before you discovered us. He activated his device again. Holographic displays appeared out the chamber, showing footage that made military advisors throughout the hall tense with alarm. The first image showed a human research station hidden in the outer reaches of Earth's solar system. The date marker indicated it was 35 years old. 15 years before official first contact. The second image showed the Xanathi survey vessel that had passed through humanity's star system during its mapping expedition. The Xanathi had not known Earth harbored intelligent life. Their scanners had been focused on cataloging stellar phenomena. They had never noticed the small station watching them from the shadows of an ice giant's rings. The third image showed human engineers analyzing Xanathi technology, learning from it, improving upon it. The timestamp showed this had been happening for over a decade before the Council made first contact with Earth. For 15 years before your scouts arrived, Daniel explained in a measured tone, humanity observed you. We studied the Xanathi when they passed through our system. We learned their language from their ship's communications. We analyzed their technology from the energy signatures they left behind. And when you finally sent diplomats to introduce yourselves to Earth, we already knew more about galactic civilization than you ever suspected. High Chancellor Theron's crest had gone pale. You deceived us from the very beginning. We're cautious, Daniel corrected. We had just discovered we were not alone in the universe. We found out that thousands of species had been traveling between stars for millions of years, while humanity was still learning to make fire. We realized we were the newcomers in a very old, very complex civilization. So yes, we decided to learn everything we could before revealing our full capabilities. He gestured to the displays. Every piece of advanced technology you installed on Earth after first contact was running on human-modified code. Code with access points so elegant that your best security analysts never found them. Every council database has been accessible to us since the day you granted us membership. Every classified discussion, every secret treaty, every military deployment. We have watched it all, Commander Vex hissed in fury. This is an act of war, is it? Daniel asked calmly. Let me show you something else. New displays activated, showing council intelligence operations that other species thought were secret. The Morvathi spy network that monitored their allies as closely as their enemies. The Threxian manipulation of trade routes to disadvantage smaller species. The Gordon military buildups that violated demilitarization treaties. We have been reading your classified files for 2 decades, Daniel continued. We know how galactic politics actually works. We know about the Morvathi genocide against the Kelton that was blamed on natural disaster. We know about the Threxian bioweapon programs that officially do not exist. We know about the conspiracy among the major powers to suppress technological development in minor species too. Maintain the current power structure. Chamber erupted in accusations and counter-accusations. Species that had been allies moments ago were now shouting at each other as their secrets were exposed. Daniel let the chaos build for a full minute before speaking again. Here is what you need to understand, he said, and something in his voice made everyone go quiet. Humanity is not angry that you play these games. We expected it. We have our own history of espionage and power politics. What we are angry about is that you decided to cage us just for being competent. You got frightened because we are smarter than you wanted us to be, faster than your models predicted, more dangerous than you are comfortable with. You are dangerous, a Threxian delegate shouted. Your world is classified as a death planet. Your species evolved as predators. You are fundamentally different from civilized species. Daniel laughed without humor. Civilized species. Let me tell you about civilization, delegate. We have built art and music and literature. We have philosophies that span thousands of years. We understand cooperation and diplomacy. We value peace. We are very good at being civilized when we choose to be." He paused, letting that sink in. "But we are also very good at the other thing. The thing that terrifies you. And for 20 years we have kept that part of ourselves carefully restrained because we wanted to earn our place among you through merit, not through fear. And now—" "High Chancellor," Theron asked quietly, "now you have shown us that merit does not matter. You are always going to find a reason to isolate us because you are afraid. So we are going to show you exactly why your fear is justified. And then we are going to explain why acting on that fear would be the worst mistake your civilization could make." Daniel activated his device one more time. Throughout the chamber, every delegate's personal communication system displayed a new message. Commander Vex read hers and went completely still. High Chancellor Theron's crest flared in shock. Even the usually impassive Loomis representatives showed signs of distress. The message showed real-time locations of every Council military asset, every warship, every defense station, every classified weapons platform, precise coordinates, command codes, tactical vulnerabilities, security protocols, everything. "This is impossible," Commander Vex whispered. "These systems are not networked. They cannot be accessed remotely." "They have maintenance personnel," Daniel said simply. "Engineers who trained at your academies, technicians who service your ships, analysts who work in your command centers. You welcomed us into your civilization, Commander. You invited us to learn from you. You never imagined we might be learning things you did not intend to teach." The implications crashed over the assembled council like a wave. If humanity had access to all of this information, if they had possessed it all along, then every secret, every defense plan, every contingency strategy the Council had developed was compromised. "You could have destroyed us at any point," Theron said. The reality of it heavy in his voice, as Daniel agreed. "We could have. We did not. Do you want to know why?" He looked up at the thousands of species watching him with new understanding. "Because we meant what we said about wanting to join your civilization. We were not lying about valuing art and culture and peace. We genuinely do. But you need to understand something about humans that your psychological profiles clearly missed." Daniel's expression hardened. "We are predators, yes, but we are also the species that domesticated wolves into dogs. We do not destroy things we can make useful. We do not eliminate threats we can turn into friends. We are very skilled at finding peaceful solutions, but—" Theron prompted. "But we are also the species that survived ice ages and plagues and global wars. We know what we are capable of when survival is at stake. And starting right now, you are going to learn what that means." Daniel raised his communication device one final time. The entire council chamber went silent, thousands of beings watching the small human with a mixture of fear and fascination. In 90 seconds, every major news network in council space will receive a data package. It contains everything humanity has learned about galactic civilization in the past 20 years. Every secret, every cover-up, every crime committed by the species sitting in this chamber. Panic erupted immediately. Delegates were screaming into their communicators, trying to block transmissions that had not yet been sent. Security forces attempted to jam signals but found their systems unresponsive. High Chancellor Theron was shouting orders that nobody could execute because human infiltration had locked everyone out of critical systems. "You will destroy everything," Theron roared over the chaos. "You will plunge the galaxy into war," Daniel said calmly. "I am giving you a choice. You have 90 seconds to make it." "What choice?" Theron demanded desperately. Daniel's voice carried across the chamber with crystal clarity. "You can let the information release. Let every species in the galaxy discover how corrupt their leaders are. Watch your carefully built order collapse as populations realize they have been lied to for generations. Chaos. Possibly war. Definitely the end of the Council, as it currently exists." He paused. "Or you can call off the quarantine. Right now, publicly, you can recognize humanity as a full member species with complete rights and privileges. You can work with us to address the problems we have uncovered instead of trying to hide them. You can choose cooperation over control. That is blackmail, hissed a Threxian delegate. Yes, Daniel agreed without hesitation. It is, because you gave us no other option. You decided to punish us for being good at survival. So now we are showing you that we are also very good at the game you have been playing. The difference is that we are better at it than you are. He checked his device. 60 seconds, High Chancellor. What is it going to be? Do you want chaos or cooperation? War or partnership? You asked to see what happens when humanity stops being polite. This is it. This is us being completely honest about what we are and what we can do. Now you decide how this ends. Thrin looked around at his fellow council members. He saw calculation in their eyes, desperation, fear. Humanity had planned this perfectly. They had spent 2 decades identifying every weakness, learning every secret, and now they were using that knowledge with surgical precision. The council had no leverage, no cards left to play. They had been outmaneuvered completely. The High Chancellor made his decision. Cancel the quarantine, he said, his voice barely audible. Say it for TH. Record, Daniel insisted. Say it so every delegate in this chamber hears you clearly. Theron's crest flared in humiliation, but he raised his voice. The Galactic Council withdraws the quarantine order against humanity. We recognize Earth as a full-member species with all associated rights and privileges. The chamber exploded in protest. But Daniel tapped his device, and every voice except his was silenced by the sound systems he now controlled. I need all of you to understand something. This is not a negotiation. This is not humanity asking for permission. This is us informing you of how things are going to be from now on. He walked to the edge of his platform, looking down into the darkness below, then back up at the assembled species. You wanted to know what humanity really is? Let me tell you a story about Earth. Our planet is classified as a Class 7 death world by your standards. The gravity crushes most species. The weather kills with casual frequency. The native life evolved to be extraordinarily lethal. Even our plants produce toxins. New holographic images appeared, showing Earth's violence, volcanic eruptions that could destroy cities, hurricanes that spanned continents, earthquakes that reshaped coastlines, predators with teeth and claws designed for killing. This is where we come from. A planet that tried to kill us every single day. So we learned to be unkillable. Images shifted to show human history. Wars, famines, plagues. We fought each other for thousands of years. We built weapons that could destroy our entire world. We faced extinction multiple times, and we survived every challenge. We adapted. We got stronger. We are persistence hunters, Daniel continued. We cannot outrun our prey in a sprint, but we can chase it until it collapses from exhaustion. We apply that same persistence to everything. When we decide something needs to be done, we do not stop. We do not give up. We hunted a disease called smallpox across our entire planet for 300 years until we drove it to complete extinction. That is what we do to threats. We erase them. Commander Vex leaned forward. Are you threatening us? I am educating you, Daniel corrected. For 20 years, you have been trying to understand what humanity is. You have been running psychological assessments and biological studies and cultural analyses, and you have been asking the wrong questions. Pulled up new images showing humans throughout council space. Scientists working alongside alien researchers. Traders building relationships with multiple species. Children playing with alien friends. While you were watching our diplomats, our regular people were doing what humans do naturally. They were connecting, learning, building friendships, making themselves valuable to your civilization. The images showed more. A human engineer solving a critical problem for a Loomis research team. Human musicians creating art with alien instruments. Human teachers working in schools across dozens of worlds. We were not just infiltrating your systems, we were integrating into your society, becoming part of the fabric of your civilization, making ourselves impossible to remove without causing massive disruption. Theron began to understand the full scope of what had happened. You have made yourselves essential. We have made ourselves partners, Daniel said. Real partners, not monitored probationary members. And now you are going to treat us as such. He gestured around the chamber. Here is what happens next. The council is going to undergo reform. Not human-led reform, but reform based on the evidence we have gathered. Species that have committed crimes will be held accountable. Systems that are broken will be fixed. And humanity will be there, working alongside everyone else to make sure it happens. Why? A young Loomis delegate asked. Why not just take control? You clearly have the power. Daniel smiled, and for the first time, it looked genuinely warm. Because we do not want control. We want partnership. We want to be part of something bigger than ourselves. We want to contribute to galactic civilization, not dominate it. He looked directly at High Chancellor Theron. We are predators, yes. But predators do not destroy healthy ecosystems. They balance them. They remove threats and maintain stability. That is what we are offering. Not conquest. Not domination. Balance. What do you need from us? Theron asked quietly. First, complete recognition as full council members with voting rights. Second, participation in all council committees and decision-making bodies. Third, transparency about the issues we have uncovered so they can be addressed properly. And fourth, you need to know that we have had military forces positioned near your key systems since before this trial began. Admiral Cole is waiting for my signal to either stand down or engage. The revelation sent another wave of shock through the chamber. Humanity had not been reacting to the quarantine. They had been preparing for it, ready to fight if necessary. You were ahead of us from the start, Theron said. Yes, Daniel agreed. That is what intelligent predators do. We plan, we prepare. We position ourselves for success. But we also know when not to strike. When to offer partnership instead of conflict. He extended his hand toward the High Chancellor. So let us begin again. This time, with honesty on both sides. This time, as actual equals. Theron looked at the offered hand for a long moment, then reached out and clasped it. Yes, let us begin again. 3 months had passed since the confrontation in the council chamber. Daniel stood in what was now called the Common Forum, a redesigned space where any species could address the council without the symbolism of accusation or judgment. Today, he was presenting humanity's proposal for systemic reform. The fundamental problem, Daniel explained to the assembled delegates, is not that individual species are corrupt. The problem is that your system incentivizes secrecy and punishes transparency. High Chancellor Theron, who had become an unexpected ally during the reform process, gestured for Daniel to continue. The reptilian leader had proven more adaptable than anyone expected once he understood that humanity genuinely wanted partnership rather than domination. Look at how information flows through council systems. Daniel activated a holographic display showing data movement patterns. Critical intelligence gets hoarded for strategic advantage. Scientific discoveries are classified to maintain technological superiority. Evidence of crimes is suppressed to protect political relationships. He highlighted areas where information flow completely stopped. The result is a civilization where nobody trusts anyone, where cooperation is seen as weakness, and where the species with the best spy networks hold disproportionate power. Commander Vex, who had been surprisingly cooperative once she realized humanity could have destroyed her fleet at any time, but chose not to, studied the display carefully. This is standard practice for any advanced civilization. Information is power. Sharing everything would be foolish, would it? Daniel asked. He pulled up historical data from Earth. When humanity developed global communication networks, we faced the same choice. We could hoard knowledge and use it as a weapon. Some of our nations did exactly that. The display showed Earth's Cold War period. Nuclear standoffs, espionage, mutual distrust. For decades, we operated exactly as you do now. Secrets upon secrets. Every nation assumed the worst about every other nation. We came very close to destroying ourselves multiple times. And what changed? A Loomis delegate asked. We learned that the cost of secrecy is higher than the cost of truth, Daniel explained. We created systems for sharing information about existential threats. We built organizations where even enemies could communicate. We established scientific networks where researchers from competing nations worked on common problems together. New images appeared showing international cooperation on Earth, space exploration, disease eradication, climate research. We discovered that some challenges are too big for any single nation. Some problems require everyone to work together. And transparency, while uncomfortable, is ultimately safer than the alternative. "You're describing idealism," a Threxian delegate said dismissively. "Reality is more complex." "I am describing survival," Daniel corrected firmly. Earth had weapons that could destroy our entire planet. We had the power to end human civilization in an afternoon. Secrecy almost made us use those weapons. Transparency saved us. He looked around the chamber. "That is what we are proposing for the Council. Not unified government. Not human control. Just transparency about things that affect everyone. Just accountability for crimes against sapient beings. Just recognition that existential threats to any species are threats to all species." Theron leaned forward. "How would such a system function? Who oversees it?" "Everyone oversees everyone," Daniel said. "That is the key. Right now you have a system where a few powerful species with strong intelligence capabilities keep everyone else in check. We are proposing a system where information is distributed broadly enough that no single species can dominate through secrecy." He activated a new display showing a proposed network structure. "We call it the Transparency Network. Every species contributes to a shared intelligence system. Data about treaty violations, crimes against sapient beings, existential threats, all goes into a common database that everyone can access." "Who controls this database?" Commander Vex asked suspiciously. "Nobody," Daniel answered. "That is the point. It is distributed across all member species. Quantum encrypted to prevent tampering. Accessible to everyone but C." "Untrolled by none. Madness," muttered several delegates. "Is it?" Daniel challenged. "Or is madness maintaining a system where species commit genocide and hide it? Where corruption flourishes in shadows? Where fear drives policy because nobody knows what anyone else is really doing?" He pulled up the evidence humanity had gathered over 2 decades. "We have documented 47 major crimes committed by Council species in the past 20 years. Genocides, treaty violations, exploitation of minor species, all hidden by classification systems and political maneuvering. How many more crimes do we not know about because we have not looked hard enough?" The chamber went quiet. The evidence was irrefutable. The Morvathi suppression of the Kelton species. The Threxian bioweapon testing on unwilling populations. The systematic exploitation of resource-rich worlds by powerful species who used legal technicalities to avoid accountability. "This information could destroy the Council," Theron said quietly. "This information could save the Council," Daniel corrected. "Right now, your civilization is built on a foundation of secrets and lies. That foundation is cracking. Species are losing faith in the system. Minor species are talking about rebellion. The structure is failing." He gestured to the holographic displays. "Transparency does not create these problems. It reveals them so they can be fixed. Would you rather deal with corruption when you can control the process, or wait until everything collapses and you have no control at all?" A young delegate from a minor species Daniel did not recognize stood up. "If humanity implements this transparency network, what stops you from using it to control us?" Daniel smiled at the question. "That is exactly the right thing to ask. The answer is that we are going to prove it works by implementing it on ourselves first." Shock rippled through the chamber. Several delegates asked simultaneously. "Starting immediately, humanity is putting all our operations in Council space into a public database. Every diplomatic mission, every trade agreement, every scientific collaboration, every military movement, all of it accessible to anyone who wants to look." "You are volunteering to expose your own secrets?" Commander Vex asked incredulously. We are volunteering to live by the principles we advocate, Daniel corrected. If we are asking you to embrace transparency, we need to demonstrate that it can be done. So yes, every human vessel, every human facility, every human operation in the galaxy is now open for inspection. That is suicidal, a Threxian delegate said. It is honest, Daniel replied. And if we are correct, if transparency really does create more stability than secrecy, then this will be the beginning of something remarkable. He looked at Theron. We understand this is difficult. Change always is. But the alternative is watching your civilization slowly collapse under the weight of its own secrets. Humanity has been there. We know how that story ends. We are not going to stand by and watch it happen to you. Theron studied the human for a long moment. You are gambling everything on this idea? Yes, Daniel agreed. But it is a gamble worth taking. Because the alternative is continuing a system that we know does not work. That has never worked. That will eventually fail catastrophically. The High Chancellor looked around at his fellow council members. We need time to consider this proposal. Take all the time you need, Daniel said. But while you are deciding, watch what happens to humanity. Watch what transparency does for us. Then make your choice based on evidence rather than fear. Over the following weeks, something unprecedented happened. Humanity's public database became the most accessed information system in the galaxy. Species watched in fascination as humans documented everything they did. Trade negotiations conducted in full view. Scientific research shared immediately. Even military deployments announced before they happened. And then the assassination attempts began. 17 separate incidents where hostile actors tried to exploit humanity's openness. 17 failures. Because transparency meant that every human facility was being watched by thousands of friendly observers who reported suspicious activity immediately. The galaxy began to understand. Transparency did not create vulnerability. It created a web of observers who made hidden threats impossible. One by one, species began volunteering to join the transparency network. First, the minor species, who had the most to gain from a system that limited the power of secrets. Then some of the mid-tier civilizations who saw opportunity in a more level playing field. Finally, 3 months after the initial proposal, Commander Vex stood before the council. The Morvathi Empire has completed an internal review using human methods, she announced. We have discovered crimes committed by our species over the past 2 centuries. We could hide these findings. Our intelligence services remain strong. But we have decided that the cost of maintaining secrets exceeds their value. The Morvathi Empire is joining the Transparency Network and will make full disclosure of our findings. Daniel felt tears forming in his eyes. To see one of the galaxy's most secretive military powers embrace transparency so completely, Commander Vex, he said quietly, that took more courage than any military victory. Thank you. The Morvathi officer's scales rippled in a pattern Daniel had learned meant respect. Do not thank me. Help us build the systems to ensure we do not fall back into old patterns. High Chancellor Theron stood. It seems humanity has shown us a better path. The question now is whether we are brave enough to follow it. 8 months after the confrontation that nearly destroyed galactic civilization, the council chamber looked completely different. Transparent walls replaced opaque barriers. Public observation galleries surrounded the forum where delegates debated. Information displays showed real-time data about council operations that anyone could access. Daniel stood in the common forum, presenting the results of humanity's transparency initiative to a council that had transformed itself in ways nobody had imagined possible. The evidence is conclusive, he said, gesturing to displays showing 8 months of data. Crime rates in transparent zones are down 42%. Treaty compliance is up across all metrics. Scientific collaboration has accelerated dramatically. And most significantly, public trust in council institutions has increased for the first time in recorded history. High Chancellor Theron, who had been re-elected by an overwhelming majority after embracing reform, studied the data with visible satisfaction. 63 species have now implemented full transparency protocols. 27 more are in transition. The results exceed our projections. Commander Vex added her own assessment. The Morvathi Empire completed our internal reforms. We now operate under complete transparency. Our people trust their government for the first time in generations. The reduction in internal security costs alone has been remarkable. She looked at Daniel with what he had learned was the Morvathi expression for gratitude. My species spent centuries believing that secrecy equaled security. Humanity proved us wrong. Transparency has made us stronger, not weaker. A Threxian delegate stood, his mandibles clicking nervously. The Threxian hierarchy has completed our review as well. We found evidence of bioweapon programs that violated every treaty we had signed. The revelation was humiliating. But because it became public through the Transparency Network, we had to address it. Our government has been reformed. The programs have been dismantled. He looked at his fellow Threxians. We thought we were protecting our species through secrecy. Instead, we were enabling crimes that shamed us. No more. Species throughout the chamber were sharing similar stories. The Loomis Collective had discovered exploitation of minor species by their trade consortiums. The Gordon had found massive corruption in their military procurement systems. Even the ancient Xanathi had uncovered problems in their automated governance systems that had gone unnoticed for centuries. Each revelation had been painful. Each exposure of wrongdoing had caused political upheaval, but in every case transparency had forced accountability. Problems that had festered in darkness were now being addressed in full view of galactic civilization. There have been challenges, Daniel acknowledged. 41 attempts to exploit the Transparency Network for malicious purposes. 37 species or organizations trying to use our openness against us. And all 41 attempts failed, Theron noted. Because transparency creates a web of observers that makes hidden threats impossible to maintain. Daniel nodded. Exactly. When everyone can see everything, deception becomes exponentially more difficult. Trust stops being a leap of faith and starts being a calculated decision based on verifiable evidence. A young delegate from a species Daniel did not recognize raised a tentacle. But not everyone has joined the network. Some species still maintain secrecy. How do we deal with them? The same way we always have, Daniel said. Through patient demonstration that transparency works better. Look at the economic data. New displays showed trade statistics. Species in the Transparency Network are experiencing average economic growth of 12%. Species outside the network are averaging 4%. Transparent markets are more efficient because everyone can verify claims and assess risks accurately. Military conflict is down 70% in transparent zones, Commander Vex added. When everyone can see everyone else's capabilities and intentions, miscalculation becomes rare. War. Start from misunderstanding and fear. Transparency eliminates both. Theron stood and descended from his throne, walking to the common forum where Daniel stood. Ambassador Red, 8 months ago, you threatened to destroy the Council. Today you have saved it. On behalf of 10,000 species, I want to express gratitude for humanity's contribution to our civilization. Daniel clasped the High Chancellor's offered appendage. We did not save anything, Chancellor. We just showed you what we learned from our own mistakes. The courage to change came from you and every species that chose transparency over tradition. Humanity taught us that strength does not require secrecy, Theron said. That true power comes from trust, and trust comes from transparency. You gave us a path to something better than what we had built. And you had the wisdom to take that path, Daniel replied. That was not guaranteed. You could have fought us. Could have tried to maintain the old system through force. Instead, you chose to build something new. He looked around at the assembled council. This is what partnership looks like. Not one species dominating others. Not humanity imposing our will. But everyone contributing their best ideas and working together to build something none of us could create alone. A Loomis delegate's crystalline form chimed softly. There is one matter we must address. The position of transparency ombudsman. Someone must oversee the network, investigate violations, help species navigate the transition. We propose Ambassador Reed for this role. Daniel started to object, but Theron raised a hand. Before you refuse, understand that we are not asking you to be a policeman. The Ombudsman is about helping species learn to live honestly with each other. Who better than the species that taught us transparency was possible? I accept, Daniel said after a moment. On one condition. This cannot be only a human position. We need a rotating panel representing multiple species. Transparency requires oversight from all perspectives, agreed Theron said immediately. Commander Vex, are you willing to serve? The Morvathi officer's scales rippled in surprise, but she nodded. I will serve. 3 more species volunteered immediately. Within minutes, a diverse panel had been formed, representing different regions of council space. Different physiologies, different philosophies. United by a common commitment to transparency. The galaxy stands at a turning point, Theron announced to the full council. We can continue evolving toward transparency and trust, or we can slide back into the old patterns of secrecy and fear. The choice will be ours to make every day. He looked at Daniel. 20 years ago, we welcomed humanity to the council with suspicion. We watched you, judged you, feared you. We saw your capabilities and decided you were too dangerous to trust. We were wrong, the High Chancellor said simply. Not wrong about your capabilities? You are indeed formidable, but wrong about what that meant. We assumed powerful species naturally seek domination. Humanity showed us that true strength lies in lifting others up. Daniel felt emotion welling up. We are not perfect, Chancellor. We have made terrible mistakes in our history. We will make more in the future. But we have learned that the cost of secrecy always exceeds the cost of truth. Secrets start wars. Lies breed fear. Only transparency creates lasting peace. Then let us build a transparent galaxy together, Theron declared. Not through force or coercion, but through patient demonstration that honesty works better than deception. Over the following months, the transformation continued. More species joined the Transparency Network. Systems that had operated in shadows for millennia were brought into the light. Crimes were exposed and addressed. Corruption was rooted out. Trust began replacing fear as the foundation of galactic civilization. There were setbacks. Some species tried to cheat the system. Conflicts still arose. But each challenge was met with transparency rather than secrecy, with evidence rather than accusation. With cooperation rather than confrontation. Daniel stood in the observation gallery one evening, watching the council in session below. Delegates from 1,000 species debating policy in full public view. Information displays showing data that anyone could verify. A civilization learning to operate honestly for the first time in its existence. The polite mode is still off, he murmured to himself, smiling. And honestly, this is so much better. Admiral Cole's voice came through his communicator. How does it feel to change the galaxy, Ambassador? Daniel thought about that. About 20 years of careful infiltration. About the confrontation that could have started a war. About the choice to offer partnership instead of domination. About 10,000 species learning to trust each other. Feels like we did something right, he said finally. Like we took our hard-learned lessons and used them to help others avoid the same mistakes? That is what humans do, Patricia. We survive. We learn. We share what we learned. And we refuse to quit until everyone benefits. Stubborn as always, Cole said with affection. Persistent, Daniel corrected. There is a difference. He looked out at the galaxy visible through the observation window. Thousands of stars. Millions of worlds. Billions of beings learning to live together honestly. It was not perfect. It never would be. But it was better. So much better than what had come before. The age of secrets was ending. The age of transparency was beginning. And humanity, the species that had been too dangerous to trust, had become the species that taught the galaxy how to trust each other. It was the most human thing they could have done. They saw a broken system and fixed it. Saw injustice and demanded accountability. Saw an impossible challenge and found a solution. Then they shared that solution with everyone and refused to quit until it worked. That was humanity's gift to the galaxy. Not superiority. Not conquest. Not domination. Just persistent, frustrating, revolutionary honesty. and it changed everything. Retriclod can make mistakes. Please double-check responses. Sonnet 4.5.